Hello everyone, it's me, xGalaxi Girlx, and I'm going to be doing a series of videos, probably about 4 or 5 videos, talking about how to create a Webkinz series, or really any series for this matter. It could be LPS or Briar Horses or anything like that that you use to create your your series with. I create Webkinz series for for my YouTube videos is what I do. I really enjoy doing it, and I get asked questions all the time on how I do it and what I do to create those series. So, I'm going to be creating a series of videos. This video will be focusing on the plot and the characters portion of the series, the very beginning, getting the ideas and everything like that. And in future videos, I'll be talking about writing, filming, acting, editing, stuff like that. You know, so yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. So these videos will take place whenever I have time to make them. So hopefully they'll all be out in like a span of a month or something. So, yay! Let's get started then. This video, like I said, is going to be talking about plot and characters. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but we're going to get started talking about it, right to the point. So, the first part of creating any series of any kind, or a book, or a project, or anything, is getting the idea of it. And how do you create the idea for your series? This is like my most frequently asked question about how I get my ideas. And, well, let's admit everything starts out by getting an idea. And I take inspiration from all of my surroundings to get my ideas. I take it from books that I read, movies that I watch, TV shows, music, dreams, my own life experiences, anything at all. I take it all and I kind of like smush it all together in this big idea. Like, I have like all these ideas just roaming around in my head, running around like screaming like, look at me! And they want me to pick them out and to create them into an idea. So I really just take anything at all, and I have all these ideas in my head from all these different things that I've seen and heard, and I kind of like take them all together, and I pick out the things that I like, and I kind of like I try to fit two things together and see if they work together, and until I get something that I like. It really is just work, and just like kind of like figuring things out and figuring out if you like it or not. Usually ideas can come in like a blink of an eye, and I've had that happen before. Like, I've had like a plot line just pop into my head like that, and just like a snap of my fingers, and I was like, oh my gosh, and that was just by like looking at stars or something, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have an idea. And other times, most of the time, mostly every single time, I have to work for it, and I have to work on getting the idea together. So, it does take work, but it is worth it. And I'm just going to say this now. Very important. Most important thing I'm going to say in this entire video. Do not copy. Do not copy. Do not copy. Do not. I don't know how strictly I can say that. Do not copy. Sure, it is okay. There's very different things if you want to recreate something that's completely different. Like, if you want to take like the Hunger Games and do a scene from the Hunger Games, that's completely different. But if you're like taking a fellow YouTuber's video and copying it and taking it as your own idea and recreating it a little bit to make it your own, just a tiny bit, it's very different. Like, I've had people ask me before if they can use my series and they can recreate it, and my answer will always be no. But if you want to take, like, an idea, like, say, in my series, The Weight of Us, I have a wall, and someone asked me if they could have, like, a wall in their series dividing two different people, two different societies. And I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool, that's great that someone's using my idea and getting inspiration off of that, because I'm sure somewhere in my brain there was a wall that divided a society, and that came into my mind, and that's how I created my series. So if someone's taking my idea and like a small part of my idea and taking it and transforming it into something else that's completely different. It's two different things. There's a difference between copying and taking something and remaking it into something new with all this other stuff added into it. So I'm just trying to make that clear for everybody. So do not copy, and it's so much like, just when you copy something, there's no originality to it, you know? And there's just nothing original about it, and you want to, you know, I just always say that it's so much more worth it when you create something that's your own, that you put hard work and thought into it. And my series are like my little babies. They are like mine, and I created them on my own, and I love them so much. So do not copy. I'm sorry. Let's move on now. Let's move on. So let's begin. I want to say that that's how you create your idea. Do not copy. And let's move on. The most important thing is to write down your ideas and do not forget them. When you come up with an idea, you want to write it down, whether it be on your computer or on a piece of paper, anything, write it down. You do not want to forget. I'm a very fast typer, so I type everything that I do. But if I'm like, say, in a car and sitting in the back seat, and I always have like a little notepad I have with me, or if I'm like out shopping and I'm just like, or I'm at dinner, I always like have a notepad with me to write stuff down, so I like don't forget in case I have like a brilliant idea. So that is very important, because I sometimes always like forget, and if I don't have any paper with me, I have to like keep reminding myself what it is, and I'll always forget things. So always write stuff down. Very, very important. Because you'll like be so angry if you forget something. So yeah, so if once you finally get all of your stuff together, you smushed all these ideas together, and you like an idea, and you have your basic overall plot line, like for instance, I'll take my hidden, from my story Hidden, like, a boy comes into a small town and he's a werewolf. Girl falls in love with werewolf. Boom! Idea! Probably it would be a little bit more elaborate than that, but that's kind of like the basic overall idea, you know, but there's obviously, you'll have a lot more detail than that, but there's just a basic overall idea of kind of what it's about. And maybe there's a witch, and there's a villain, and the villain was, like, the werewolf knew the villain before, and, like, you know, you kind of come up with all these ideas, and you just kind of, like, smush it all together. So, it's really just you forming an idea. Then let's talk about, that's kind of like the plot portion of this video, about getting the plot together. And if you have any more questions about the plot, please do ask in the, comments, because I'm sure I've left some stuff out that you guys have questions about. Characters. Let's talk about characters. Characters are the most important part of your story. I don't care how amazing your plot line is, the characters are what make a story. I would say my Weight of Us, I love that idea, the plot line of that story. Humans have become extinct, animals take over, and they are intelligent, but they are divided by their societal differences by a wall that they created. And I mean, that sounds like a pretty cool plot line, but I'm telling you, it would be nothing without the characters. So yeah. So characters are very, very important. So yeah, the first step, I would say, is giving them names. Sure, you already have, your Webkinz already have names. I mean, this one right here is like a jelly bean puppy, so, like, Jelly Bean is like the name. It's like, hey, Jelly Bean. I don't really think that's her real name, but Jelly Bean. Her name's Jelly Baby. Yeah, that's what it is. So, her name's Jelly Baby. Now, you think I'm going to use that name and I'm going to have all my other Webkinz in the movie call her, or the series call her Jelly Baby? No. That's just kind of weird. And, I don't know, I'll give her name like Alice. I'll rename her Alice in the series, and boom! Done! It sounds so much more professional and real, and I don't know, it just sounds better. So I would actually rename all of your characters. I would, like, the first thing I would do is kind of pick out Webkinz from your shelf and kind of like put them together, kind of like if you have a family, try to pick Webkinz that kind of look alike because it just makes it feel more real. Like if you have dogs, like if you have like dogs of the same kind of like color or gender, like if they're all poodles, that kind of makes sense. And you know, it just kind of put them together where it works, unless you know your family is different and it's like a turtle with a deer with a seal as a child. That is fine. If that is what you're going for in your series, do that. But you know, it's just whatever is like how you're supposed to be doing it for your series. So you see what I'm saying here? So names are important. You don't have to do the name thing, but I found it very helpful. And then when you're picking out your Webkinz, kind of find Webkinz that look alike if that's what you're going for. For like family situations and stuff. And yeah, and let's see what else. What was I talking about? So yeah, personalities. Let's get on to personalities. I can't tell you how to write a character's personality, but make sure each character is very different with their personalities. They, maybe a character says a certain phrase all the time, like Haymitch from the Hunger Games always says sweetheart to Katniss. You know, just like those things like that. If the character's always very sweet, if the character's very kind of like always kind of angry, some characters may speak differently than other characters, or they may speak quietly, they may always talk very loudly, they may stumble over words, they laugh a lot, they're very outgoing, or do they like to keep to themselves. Just make sure each character is very different and has their own distinct personalities, and write on a list, like the Webkinz that you chose for that character, write the name that you gave them, like write the Webkinz, write the name that you gave them for the series, because it's going to be, if you choose a different name for them, instead of Jelly Baby, name them Alice, and then write down their personality next to that, and like different things that are about them. So that's very, very important because you want your characters to be different and you want to know their differences and what they're like. In case, you know, you forget, you always have that. Because trust me, I do, especially in the beginning, but when you're starting to get to know your characters yourself, you're just kind of like, and you need to remember. And also write down the relation between other characters. Like, if the character loves this character, or if the character hates this character, or if that character is the father to that character. Like, write that stuff down, and don't forget it. So, yeah, and also, we all have villains in our story, and I want to talk about villains, because villains are my all-time favorite characters in history. Villains are amazing. So it is very important to not leave your villain hanging. Villains are just as important as all the other characters. And also, before I forget, write down even like the smaller characters. If you have like really small characters, like maybe they're only in like 2 episodes or something, still write down their personality and everything, because don't leave them hanging. They're still very important, and even that just makes your whole like series and all your characters come together even better. So even write down the small characters and their personalities and everything like that. So, yeah, and villains. Back to villains. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Villains. So, even if you're a villain, usually villains, sometimes they kind of get left behind, and they're just their classical old villain who kind of wants power, wants revenge, wants something, and it's kind of like, oh, villains, you know. But, you know, if you're, kind of give your villain, like, why is he evil? Kind of like, or why is she evil? Like, go into it a little bit, and don't just say, they're evil, because why not? Kind of, like, give them a little bit of something. Whether your villain is, like, secretly a hero, or whether your villain, or whether your hero is secretly a villain, or a villain who is doing something but doesn't really want to, but because they want to be a hero, but they're being controlled by someone else, or anything like, or either if your villain is just absolutely crazy, that's fine too, and you just want to have a villain who's pure evil, that is chill too, but kind of like go into why they're crazy, why are they evil, you know, show some of these characters some respect. I mean, come on, why do you think they're evil? Because no one cares about them, but I do, so give them some respect, guys. Jeez, who do you people think they are? Like, for real. Sorry, yeah, so even if, like, your villain is the head cheerleader of the high school, and you're just like, oh, she's so, like, you know, maybe go in some depth. Don't make her a stereotypical villain. Maybe her life at home isn't great. Maybe, you know, she doesn't really have any friends. Maybe her boyfriend, who she really cared about, just broke up with her. Like, you know, just go into stuff like that. Make your villains have depth, just like the heroes. So, yeah. Let's see. So now you have your ideas, you have your characters, now you should begin writing. Writing I'm going to be talking about in the next episode, but I want to get into a little bit, this is kind of also in the idea section, so I'm just going to throw it in now in this video. The next part is outlining. Now, I don't always outline, to tell you the truth. Maybe I should, but I usually think that when I do outline, I don't always get the best content in when I write out the whole scene. So I usually don't outline, but sometimes it's very helpful to outline, in case I want to see where my story's going, or in case, like, I have an idea for the next part, but I don't have time to write it right now, or I don't feel like writing it right now, I can write that down for what I'm going to do in the next episode. So usually I don't go into much detail when you outline, and outlining is just kind of giving a basic idea of what's going to happen, maybe in about 3 to 5 sentences about what's going to happen in the next episode. Or you could just blob it all down and just write ideas like, blah blah blah, Veronica and Caleb kiss, woohoo! Or, just write out random ideas or anything like that. So I'm going to give you guys a basic example from the first episode of The Weight of Us. Like, if I were to write an outline for the first episode of Season 1 of The Weight of Us, I would write down probably like, background info. Kent is at wall. Arona comes and stops him. They talk about Katona. They go off looking for dinner. Alarg and Mulata have a conversation. Kent and Arona, again, are back together and they caught a deer for dinner. Kent asks her about keeping the darkness inside and forgetting about Katona and his loss. And then they bring up the lighting ceremony, and then, Kent and Katona talk, and they laugh, but then Dakota brings up his dying mother, and at the end they go off to the lighting ceremony, and then at the end Alarg addresses the pack, and they have the lighting ceremony, and then, oh my gosh, this psychic chick, Saga, freaks out and tells everyone the civvies are coming at dawn, and then we show a clip of Alan, my villain. So, yeah. That was just like me rambling, typing on the computer about what's going to happen in that episode. So really, you don't have to write that much. You don't even have to write anything at all. You could just write a couple basic things. You could write down something, like one thing. Like, I could write down that I know that Kent and Arona are going to have that conversation. I know the lighting ceremony is going to be at the end, but I don't really know what's going to happen in between that, and I could just, figure it out when I get there and when I start writing. Because when I start writing, I kind of just, like, sometimes you get writer's block and you can't write anything at all, and when you do that, I would just kind of, like, take a break from it. But when you're, like, writing down these ideas, just kind of, like, you don't have to fill in all the blanks. You could just kind of surprise yourself when you're writing and just kind of, like, go with it. So, and I don't do this a lot, but I do sometimes. So, yeah, it just really, whatever works for you is what I'm saying. And it all depends on what you like to do and what your story is, and find what works best for you and go for it. So you might have to try different things out and see what you like and see what you don't like. And, yeah, so just, try to figure out what you're best at and work on what you're not good at, and just kind of, like, work it all together, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So that's all for plot and characters. And for the next episode of this little, like, 5-episode series, I'm going to be doing, talking about writing. So I don't know when that will be uploaded, but hopefully very soon. So yeah, if you have any more questions about plot and characters, or outlining or anything like that, please leave them in the comments, and I will be sure to answer them. So yeah, I guess that's it, and, yeah, so thank you guys so much, and like if you think this was helpful, or just like if you don't. I would really like to know. So, yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!